So hey, it's 5 degrees out, you got an electric car, and there's some interesting compromises you have to make when you're driving it. And the first of which I'm learning is heat worth 10 miles of range to you? There are things that you certainly don't think about when you just read about electric cars and you don't really drive them and have to live with them in the snow and the cold. So there are definitely some tricks and different things you have to do in order to be able to live with an electric car. And probably the first and the foremost is hopefully try and keep the batteries warm. And you can do this before you take off by a mode BMW calls preconditioning. This is where you have the car plugged in and you set a departure time, and what the car does is it actually heats the batteries up and the battery pack in the internal cabin. So once you take off, you can actually just use the battery power to propel you and not so much to have to warm the car up. Another important thing to do is to run the car. When you start it, it'll start off in comfort mode. So an important thing to do is to run it in Eco Pro mode. And what this does is this decreases the throttle response a little bit, and it'll turn the cabin heating and cooling down. And another aspect you can do is decrease the cabin heat. And in fact, there are some people that are really ultra EV nuts, and what they like to do is they like to turn the interior cabin heat off, maybe run the electric seats a little bit, and then just wear like a parka or some kind of battery powered jacket that helps keep them warm. The coldest I've driven this so far has been about 4 degrees, and I left it out all day. And you know, you try and do the things that they talk about in terms of preconditioning the car before you set out, but at the end of it being outside, not being plugged in, after about 10 hours, the battery gets really cold, and you can actually tell a decrease in the amount of acceleration that's available. You definitely notice a decrease in the range. In fact, if you turn the heat on, you knock 9 to 11 miles off of it. And but the biggest problem that I've found with this in the winter, in terms of running it with like no heat on or low heat off, you leave the house, it's preconditioned, you're warmed up, you go out, and I've never in a car that fogs up on the inside as much. And I don't know if it's because of the design of the car or the fact I'm trying to run the fan low, but I've never been in a car that frosts up on the inside as much. So despite my desire to not run the heat to be able to give myself the maximum distance, I found that I keep having to cycle the defroster on and off in order to try to keep the frost off the inside of the windows. The other thing that's a little unique about this car is that owners call it the Gesso-meter, that gives you approximate range when you set out. BMW on their website says the range of the car is 80 to 110 miles for a given charge, depending on how you're driving it. But I would tell you, you know, in weather like this, when you're, you know, freezing, which I am currently, is that you can see almost the range cut in half. You can see, instead of maybe 80 miles, you might see 40. You know, in general, before the weather started getting cold on our car, we were getting about 4 miles per kilowatt hour, which would fit with a range of about 80 miles on a 22 kilowatt hour battery pack, where you get to use most, but not all of the battery pack. But now that it's gotten cold, and once the battery pack gets really cold, the range is about 2 miles per kilowatt hour, which fits with about a 40-mile range. So it really, you know, this is a thinking car. When I'm driving it, I'm constantly thinking about how much battery do I have, what kind of range do I have, how is my driving style affecting the range of the car, and where do I want to go, and how far is it for me to get back. And I will plot out on electronic maps like Google Maps to figure out how far my trip is going to be, so that I know that I can get back even when it's cold. BMW does sell a range extender version if you're really concerned about range anxiety or performance during winter. Also strongly suggest snow tires. We've been running Nokian Hakkapeliittas, but there is also a set available from BlizzX called the N500s. And perhaps the last tip I have is that if you have a covered parking garage like I did the day that I took it and it was 5 degrees, don't park it inside. If you get the opportunity to park it outside, the sun heat can help keep the batteries warm. Why is it I got this bad feeling that this is one of those, hey, watch me, look at this, and then I'm in the drink?